Air, land, and space are three of the places we're going today. I'm Carl Azus. Welcome to CNN 10. The Boeing Aerospace Company is working to restore confidence in its passenger planes. It hosted more than 200 pilots, technicians, and rule makers at its facility yesterday in Seattle, Washington. Boeing's 737 MAX series planes, its most popular airliner, have been grounded around the world following two catastrophic accidents within 5 months. Investigators believe sensors and software were factors in both of the crashes. And on Wednesday, Boeing detailed how it would overhaul its software system on 737 MAX planes and change the way pilots are trained on them. Some pilots have said they weren't taught how to disable a computer system that might have played a part in the accidents, so the company plans to add more pilot training. Some airlines say they're optimistic about these changes, but concerns about the 737 MAXes persist. One that was being flown from Florida to California for temporary storage made an emergency landing on Tuesday. It didn't have passengers because the model's been grounded, but Boeing said the pilots reported a performance issue with one of the plane's engines. One question being asked worldwide is how all this is going to impact such a major manufacturer of planes.
If it ain't a Boeing, I ain't going. It's a mantra amongst pilots that dates back to the company's earliest days. And in 2018, it drove Boeing to a record-setting 806 aircraft deliveries. 6 more planes than its rival, Airbus. An enviable reputation for safety is now scarred by the twin disasters of Lion Air 610 and Ethiopian 302. The ensuing crisis is sure to leave a mark on the company's profitability.
Boeing is certainly going to take some financial hits as a result of these accidents. The question is how much?
The Indian Airlines SpiceJet has been forced to ground its 13 737 MAX 8 jets as part of the worldwide grounding of the aircraft.
We are also flying our existing aircraft a little harder, and we've cancelled a few flights. So we are trying to make do the best that we can.
Now the chief executive wants compensation for Boeing for the lost revenue. But getting rid of Boeing planes altogether, Singh says, not anytime soon.
Boeing is a world-class company. They are one of the finest companies in the world. And we are confident that Boeing will find a solution.
In the age of this aviation duopoly, it's Airbus or Boeing. And both are running backlogs on orders. Airlines wanting to switch from one to the other would find that very difficult.
Airlines tend to have fleet philosophies based on commonality of training for pilots, spares holdings, engineering support, and that means that having made a decision to go for one manufacturer or another, an airline will tend to stick with it.
Even Indonesia's Garuda, which this week said it would cancel an order of nearly 50 MAX 8s, has no plans to replace them with Airbus. If it ain't a Boeing, I ain't going. That mantra may be at risk. Boeing's firm hold on the market is not. Richard Quest, CNN, London.
10-second trivia. Which of these international organizations has exactly 28 member countries? NATO, World Trade Organization, European Union, or World Health Organization? Until the Brexit takes place, there are 28 members of the European Union. And in 3 years, all new cars in EU member countries could be electronically prevented from speeding. The EU calls this intelligent speed assistance, and it wants it to be standard along with other measures like vehicle data recorders. Speed limiters reduce a car's engine power to keep it from going over the speed limit. The EU says this could reduce accident deaths by 20%, and if drivers needed to temporarily go over the speed limit to pass somebody, for instance, they could do it by pressing hard on the gas pedal. The rules still have to be approved by EU member countries, and there could be some problems ahead. Different nations in Europe have different road signs, and digital information isn't always current, so the cars could have trouble detecting what the speed limits are. Some critics are also concerned about privacy and drivers depending more on the car's computer systems than actual road conditions. But speed limiting technology is just another example of how cars are becoming more robotic.
The Citron testing ground in Singapore is almost like a mini town, with streets, crosswalks, traffic signals, and even this.
This is the bus stop?
This is the bus stop.
Why do you call it the bus stop?
Because we are waiting for the bus, our autonomous vehicle.
I'm here for my very first ride in a self-driving shuttle bus.
So you feel like within 5 years, this will be a regular part of our lives?
Yes, in 3 to 5 years, this kind of service is actually rolling around the world.
How long before I get in my car, I tell my car, take me to work, and it just goes?
For that to come, probably another decade.
Dr. Dilip Limbu's company, Movita, or Move It Autonomously, is one of around a dozen firms testing vehicles here. Singapore's government wants to use the findings for driverless transport. The goal is to reduce air pollution and chronic heavy traffic. The nerve center of all this innovation is Singapore's Nanyang Technological University, home to the Energy Research Institute, and led by Professor Subodh Maisulkar.
How long did it take for you to get used to being driven around without a driver?
No, I don't think I'm still ready for it.
Well, that's an honest answer.
Yeah, it is.
He says this technology might not be ready just yet, but it's coming much sooner than you think.
So in just over a decade, what will our streets look like?
You will have a mixed level of traffic between cars that are autonomous able as well as drivers.
He says self-driving buses will solve Singapore's bus driver shortage. Robotic street sweepers will work the undesirable graveyard shift. And fully autonomous cars, like this BMW equipped with cameras and sensors, will give new independence for those who can't drive.
Cities which have extremely high sophistication of infrastructure would be the first places where the autonomous vehicles would be deployed.
Like Singapore.
Like Singapore.
Self-driving technology still has its limits. A safety driver is necessary on our ride.
What was that? Oh, the emergency brake.
Though this fender bender is a human error.
We hit the curb there.
You have to go back.
This is like me when I was learning how to drive.
Developers say that software learns much faster than your average teenage driver, which means in just a few years, you could be sharing the road with a robot. Will Ripley, CNN, Singapore.
The leader of India says his country is now a space superpower. Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced that a missile fired from the ground had successfully destroyed one of India's own satellites in low orbit. He made that announcement yesterday. This is significant because until now, only 3 other countries have done this: the United States, Russia, and China. Prime Minister Modi called the exercise a historic feat and said having that capability to shoot down satellites would make India stronger. But his political opponents criticized it as a publicity stunt, with India's elections scheduled to begin on April 11th. Prime Minister Modi also said the missile operation was carried out only for India's defense and security. But Pakistan, which is both a neighbor and rival of India, said that every country should avoid actions that could lead to the militarization of space. India's space program has been steadily growing in recent years. It put a satellite into orbit around Mars in 2014, and India hopes to have a manned mission to space within the next 3 years. After her last competitive dog show event, Gail, an American Staffordshire Terrier, was supposed to be flying home to enjoy her retirement in Amsterdam, Netherlands. But she broke out of her crate as workers were loading it onto the plane, and the 22-month-old dog went missing at the world's busiest airport in Atlanta, Georgia. 4 days later, as her handler was calling for her on airport property, Gail appeared and jumped into his arms. You'd think her owner would have been mad as a pit bull, but he didn't want to bite the hand that helped him. He said it was heartwarming, not heartwarming, that so many people would assist in bringing her bark. Of course, he might have a bone to pick with the airline, but we'll bury that for now and just say that when it comes to digging up news stories, dog rescues are always best in show. I'm Carl Azus for CNN 10.